All right, welcome back. Let's talk about JavaScript syntax, and that is how we write JavaScript, how it looks when we write it. So I have VS Code open here. Just go to File, New File, and then File, Save As, and I saved mine as index.html. Now in here at the bottom right, mine goes to a Django template by default. Yours probably goes straight to an HTML file. And I'm going to use an Emmet abbreviation here. I'm going to type HTML:5. You see this Emmet abbreviation in VS Code. Go ahead, slam that tab key, and that's going to print out all this junk for you. Now, we learned about this in HTML and CSS. If you're unfamiliar with what this is, it's probably time to go back to HTML and CSS 101, HTML 101, CSS 101. We talk about this quite a bit. So JavaScript syntax, there's two places, actually there's three places we can write JavaScript. One is in the head, and using the script tag, and then we can write some stuff in here. Or we can take this whole thing, copy it, and throw it inside of the body. Now there's two places inside the body we can put it. We can put it either at the top, somewhere in the middle, or near the bottom. And the best place is always just above this closing body tag. Now we put that in here at the very bottom, and not up here, because our page is going to load from top to bottom. So it's going to say line 1, okay, it's HTML. Line 2, HTML, English is the language. Line 3 is a head node, and inside of this node, we have a meta node, another meta node, a title node, and a script node. Now, if this script is referencing any of the elements that could be in the body, and it gets loaded before the body does, which is rare, but it can happen, then it might not work the way you expect it to work. So let's get rid of that. And let's say there's a bunch of HTML in here. Blah, 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 blah. This looks terrible, but let's pretend that we wrote some good HTML in there. And then, so your browser goes, okay, load this aside, load this data grid, load this aside, load this data grid, close that side, yada, yada, yada. Then at the very end, we've got a script, and then maybe that JavaScript is accessing this aside. Well, this has now loaded because programs load things from top to bottom. It's already loaded. So we put it down here to make sure that our document object model has been as loaded as humanly possible. Let's go ahead and get rid of that, clean that up, and let's talk about what we can put in here. So there's two ways to do this. We can do an src, and we could say javascript.js, and this is just like in CSS. When we link a CSS file to an HTML file, we are linking a JavaScript file to this HTML file. And so javascript.js needs to be an external file in the same folder as index.html. So that's one option, and we can use an external file for that, or we can write internal JavaScript, and we can just write it in here. Now, in here, there are a couple of rules. No HTML. I see this all the time. Do not write HTML between your script tags. No HTML. There's no CSS whatsoever. Do not write HTML inside of your script tag. I see this a lot as well. People think if I write HTML and CSS in here, that JavaScript's just going to pick up on it and it's going to work. No, JavaScript is its own programming language. Everything between this opening tag and this closing tag needs to be pure JavaScript. Not HTML, not CSS, not Python, nothing else, just JavaScript. In here, we can have things like variables, conditions, functions, and a few bits and bobs in between, like iterative syntax. So let's take a look quickly at what a lot of these look like. Now, this is going to go really fast. Don't feel any pressure to memorize this at the moment. Each one of these concepts is going to have its own video or series of videos. So what I'm about to write, don't feel like you need to memorize this. Don't feel overwhelmed. Just know that I'm going really fast and it's okay. In the next few lessons, we're going to learn about all of this stuff. So we can declare a variable with var. Var is equal to name, and that name is equal to Caleb. This is a variable. We can also say if, as a conditional, if that name is equal to Caleb, we could say, hello, teacher. We could also say, hello. Follow me on Insta at coding.for.everybody. And that's just where I post a bunch of tips and tricks for, well, web development, such as JavaScript. Let's go ahead and throw a semicolon at the end of each of those. So that's a conditional. We can do a function, so we can write function, greeting, name, that's a parameter, return, hello. name. Welcome to the world of JavaScript. And that's a function, and then we can execute that function. I'll just scroll that up so you can see that. I'll just execute that function as greeting, or let's not call it greeting, let's call it a new function, const, so this cannot change. This is a different type of variable. We'll talk about this as well. Const greet is equal to greeting Caleb. Now at this point, you should honestly be looking at this and going, I don't know what this is. You should be scratching your head, not understanding what this is. If you are doing that, you are in the right place at the right time. Do not worry about learning variables or conditionals or functions or consts, things like that. We're going to tackle all sorts of things in this course, including significantly more than just these concepts. But what I wanted to do was show you what this looks like right out of the box. So you could look at this and say, yep, that's a variable. Even if you don't fully understand all the different symbols in it, that's totally okay. It's good to be exposed to some of this stuff a little bit early. And you might be thinking, what's the difference between one equal sign and two equal signs? Or why put it in a function if we're just going to write something like that? Why not just put it in an alert or a console log like we have before? We're going to tackle all of these things in their own individual lessons. But this is JavaScript syntax in a nutshell. We have a variable. Some sort of name is equal to some sort of value. So we've got property, value, semicolon. If, then a parentheses, an opening parentheses, or an opening bracket, name, so that same variable, is equal to, double equal sign, Caleb. Again, we close it, that's our conditional. Execute a bunch of this code, and we tell it to execute that code with curly braces. So opening that curly brace says execute all this code if that name is equal to Caleb, and execute it up until here. Function is very similar. We're saying, hey, declare that this is a function. We can reuse a function over and over again. We called it greeting, so we could access it down here. Takes a parameter. That parameter is name. And that parameter goes between parentheses, goes between these opening and closing parentheses. And then we say execute all the code between these curly braces as well. So anything after this and anything before this, execute all that code. And then lastly, we said const, that is a variable that cannot change. So it's not actually a variable. If it can't change, what's the point of calling it a variable? But that's neither here nor there. We have a non-changing variable called greet. We executed the function and put a parameter named Caleb in here, and that's going to inject it right there. So it's going to say, hello, Caleb, welcome to JavaScript. Now that was a lot. Again, don't feel like you need to memorize any of that. Don't feel like you need to understand any of that. In fact, if I said a bunch of things and you didn't understand what I was saying, you're in the right place. Don't worry. We're going to tackle all of these things one by one in a much slower manner. But again, I just wanted to show you that this is how JavaScript syntax typically looks. For now, what I would like you to do is actually just try and remember this. Var, some sort of name, some sort of value of some kind. It doesn't have to be name. It could be Caleb, could be pet, could be computer, could be lamp, is equal to, just a single equal sign, quotation, then some sort of value, ending quotation, and then a semicolon. So just try to remember how this line looks. If you can remember this one line, you're going to do really, really well. Up next, we're going to talk about console logging. We've seen a little bit about this, and we've seen a little bit of this rather, and we are going to work a little bit more with console log right in an index.html file.